Hello there. Hope you're having a good Sunday. I'm back in the room. Now you're back in the room. Um, I put this video up yesterday of family recording with some family photographs, but I took it down again because for some personal reasons I didn't make the right selection of photographs, and and I had a dream about it, and I thought, no, I mustn't. I've got to take it down. But also, I've just seen because I was talking about copyright in a recent video, because I've just been looking into that because I don't want to get copyright strikes and things like that, and I don't want to do it anyway. I don't want to. I suppose, but it's a bit of a funny area. But in relation to that one with the photographs and the old recording back from 1960, I had a message saying that it had copyrighted content on it, and that's going right back to 1960. And there's my dad singing to it, to the music, on top of the music of this song, and so that was amazing. And it was a song called "Look Around." It's a lovely song. But apparently the content owners are now Sony Music. It just shows how everything goes back to just a few companies, doesn't it? They said it's not going to be a copyright strike, but anyway, I've taken down the video. But, oh no, there's another song as well. My Dearest Dear, who owns that? Warner Chappell, that's another big company. So even if it's in a... Now I understand, when you watch videos, I watch Alex Christopherou a lot, and he walks around doing his videos. It's a really good channel. He's walking around in different cities, often in Cyprus or Greece, but he also goes to other countries. And if he passes someone where there's music, I think I've always thought that he doesn't want the music to sort of take over his commentary, because he's doing this political commentary or things that are going on in the world, and he doesn't want it to blur the sound. But it's really about copyright. So even if it's caught by accident in the background, playing from a cafe as he walks by, that could potentially end up as a copyright strike. So gosh, there's a lot to all this. But I've had a rethink about the whole copyright thing a little bit, in terms of the way I'm kind of figuring it. And on YouTube, there's hundreds of thousands of covers of songs and people doing poems that other people have written that are still in copyright, and that's this lifetime of the writer of the song or the poem or the story, plus 70 years after they've passed away. So there's literally millions of videos doing that. And what I'm kind of thinking about it now is, as long as there's no attempt to profit from it or monetize it, I think that's the phrase, and I think that's okay if you do the odd one and you're not doing that. And hopefully it would, it might bring people's interest. I'm not talking about my channel per se, but anybody who does this, it might bring an interest to that writer, and somebody might end up buying a book by them. And whether they're still alive or it goes to their estate, then I don't see that as a bad thing. I think it's only when you're trying to profit from it and it's in copyright. But if it's just reading someone's poem, I mean, I did read, I took it, I privatized the video and then I put it back up. Poem by Brian Patton, and I've seen him a couple of times reading his poems. I love his writing. So I just did one poem, and there's no profit in it. It's just reading it, and I really love the poem. It's got a few hundred views or whatever. That's not the point. It's just that I just thought I'd love other people to get into his writing if they like that kind of thing, and if they don't know about him. Brian Patton, one of the so-called Liverpool poets. There's a group of them: Adrian Henry, Roger McGuff, Brian Patton. I don't know if he thinks of himself within that grouping now. I know they kind of were parceled together at the time, but he's a bit different to the other two, I find. He's kind of more lyrical, different kind of writer, I think. But I love his writing. So I might do another one of his one day, or just read it out. When I say do it, I mean just read it out, really. And if there's no attempt to profit by it, then I know it's not an excuse to say, well, hundreds of thousands of people on YouTube are doing that, and they're doing it with cover songs, aren't they? But it's a kind of, I don't know, I'm sort of on the fence about it, because I love hearing covers, other people doing covers of songs I like, and just see, I wonder how they interpret it, And there's literally probably millions on YouTube of that, and they certainly haven't written to the publishers and tracked them down and got formal permission to do that. And it's not worth a while for people to do, for these companies to do copyright strikes on covers of songs. So there's that side of it. I also found out in relation to copyrights to do with covers of songs is that there's organisations you can go to so that your cover is kind of protected in the sense that you can't get a copyright strike because you've gone to this organisation who works with these labels or publishers who do own the copyright to say it's kind of, you're kind of being given permission anyway. So you upload a video there and then they say, okay, and then they kind of claim it in some way later down the line. They claim it in terms of the content, in terms of copyright issues, but you don't. You're not doing that directly, of course, because it's not your copyright. I don't know if this is of interest to anybody, but I just found it a bit interesting. SoundCloud, which I'm also on, that's full of like millions of covers of songs, and people aren't being paid for those, but they're not going through formal copyright processes and kind of getting that and paying anybody for the right to do it. I think probably only when it comes to, if you got somebody who wants to formally do a cover of a song and then sell a record, I suppose, and then they've obviously got to do that. But I suppose there's other ways to profit through things, and as long as you're not doing that, I don't see it as a huge harm to anybody, and could actually bring other people to listening to the originals and or reading poems or stories by someone. With the Rhys one that I'd like to read, I think I've lived here before. Is that the title? Something like that. I should know it. The old brain's going. I think I've lived. Yeah, I think I've been here before. What's it called again? Anyway, that short story. I've written to Penguin Books to ask them if I can do it. I know I could have just done it and I'm not trying to profit anything by it, just reading it out and maybe putting some pictures there, maybe a few sound effects. Obviously, it's credited. I'm not saying I wrote it. I'll credit it. I'd say it's Jean Rhys' story, and hopefully people who don't know Jean Rhys or might want to buy one of the books. And obviously she's passed away in, I think it was 1981. So it's not in the public domain, so-called. I don't know what they'll say, Penguin Books. I mean, with reading of poems and stories on YouTube, for example, or any of the other similar platforms, I'm noticing, and I follow some of the accounts, there's hundreds of thousands, probably millions of readings of things that aren't in the public domain. But I suppose it comes down to this thing about whether you're trying to profit by that, and it is in copyright. But if you're not, I'd see that as different. And then if somebody, whoever does own the copyright, either through the writer or their agent or whatever, if they got in touch with YouTube and said, you've got to take this down, then obviously you just take it down. But I think that very rarely happens. I do see some covers on YouTube, covers of songs in which they've got a huge number of plays and listens to, in which I'd wonder whether they've gone through some process of making that sort of legitimate in a way through perhaps with this organisation I'm talking about. The one organisation is called We Are the Hits. can't remember who founded it, but they link up with all these different publishers, music publishers, and record labels who own the rights to songs, and basically you go through them initially, then they give you an all clear, then you can upload it, and they know it's out there, and then they kind of do something with YouTube and kind of claim anything. And it wouldn't affect me, but because if I ever did a song, it's only going to get a few listens anyway. But if it was someone, a cover, I mean, if it was someone who's getting like, I don't know, some of them like up to 1 million views or whatever, then I think there probably would be interested in saying, well, you're monetizing this copyrighted material. You should have gone through us and kind of formally registered it as a kind of cover song. And there are these outfits, websites, organizations that kind of facilitate that. I don't know if this video is might be a bit dull for people to listen to, but anyone who's making videos or thinks about copyright stuff, hopefully it might be a bit interesting. It is to me, because I don't want to get copyright strikes. I hear channels I've watched over the years, they've often mentioned, we've got a copyright strike, and it's back to that term of fair usage again, which is a bit, it's not cut and dried. You have to make a case for it sometimes, but I think in the majority of cases, unless it's very blatant, if you just I'll give an example. I watch Brian Harvey's videos, BHTV, and I really like him, and I like him, and I like his videos. I watched him for years. I like what he's trying to do in terms of exposing certain things and the truth. I think he's a very courageous guy. And then there's this other channel, which is obviously someone who's not got his best interests at heart. And what they've obviously done is they've ripped his whole video and basically just placed it there under there, but they're doing it for negative purposes. I think it's called Booby Doo or something like that, but they're a kind of troll really, but they've basically taken his whole video, put it up, and they're not doing this thing which I was saying yesterday, this fair usage can include parody and pastiche. Some of them, they are doing it, and it can be very cruel, that way people do that, or it can be funny and very I'm not talking about the Brian Harvey situation, but it can be, in other ones I've watched that, it's kind of legitimate. They're kind of either spoofing things or making them parodical, or it's a kind of critique. It's a form of critique, sometimes a very trenchant, strong form of critique, parody, pastiche. So they're using elements of the video, but they're adding commentary, or they're doing a kind of it goes a bit to their video and back to the person making the new video, and sort of commenting on what you've just seen. And I found some of those quite interesting over the years. There's a guy called Dr. Random McCam. He used to do a lot of those. I don't know if he still does. Reaction videos, they became a bit of a thing. I don't know, maybe that's all I want to say about that at the moment. So yeah, I think I might keep the poems up that I did, even though they're in copyright, because there's no profit in it, in not attempting to profit from them. So maybe they're okay. And if something is in the public domain, then that's different, because then I think that's all right, because you are doing something with them. You're interpreting them. If you're reading something out, it's a kind of I think it's termed as when something is in copyright, is termed a derivative. So if it's a story or a poem, and then somebody performs it, or as it were, or just reads it out, whether you call it a performance or not, or they do a reading of it and put it in a video, then it's a derivative of the original material, for which, there are aspects of a publishing contract that any derivatives need to be, especially if somebody's trying to make money out of those derivatives, then they've got to have the permission and and obviously pay a certain amount of money to the copyright owner. So it's all a bit. I think the vast majority of people don't look into it hugely like this. They just, I like this song, or I like this poem, I'll just read it on YouTube, and that's kind of fine, I think, as long as they're not sort of doing those specific ones for profit, or trying to make money out of them, because I can see why the owner of the copyright and the person who created the intellectual property, I think they call it, they created the intellectual property, so story, poem, song, whatever, bit of a play, would have a problem with that. You're trying to make money out of my intellectual property, but I got a right to. Anyway, that was a bit of a I'll leave it there before I keep rambling on. It might not be of interest to many people, this kind of stuff or video, but it might be of interest to someone, and I'm kind of a little bit interested in it, just in terms of staying on the right side of YouTube, but also doing the right thing, trying to figure out the right kind of line to walk with it. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I'm running out of steam. Take care. Have a nice Sunday. Sunday, innit? Apparently it's a new moon, so that's something else. A new moon. Take care. Bye.